The internet is broken. Business models and site design are entirely geared toward advertising and not the reader. On today's internet, advertisements are distracting, invasive, and overwhelming. In Den, the primary objective is quality content. Instead of ads, you may occasionally see a boosted post where a user has risked value to increase its visibility. Just like any other post, you can upvote or downvote to help evaluate the relevance to your community. The more engagement a boosted post gets, the less the booster pays. Depending on the evaluation process, a booster can get up to 85% of their money back, if the post is well targeted and engaging. In Den, quality content is the primary objective.
What's up, denizens? Welcome to another governance call, another Thursday. I'm extra hype on this one, so forgive me if I get carried away on something. Got Joe Dragon with us. We are talking about all things Den and how to governance it. Govern Me More edition.
Yes, it's a big update.
Yeah, it is. We dropped the site-wide. It's installed. It's working. It's taking votes. The site-wide governance is in order, and I don't know. That's really cool because we can roll out and be directed by the community now. And when I say we, like everybody who's working on Den under the hood too, can now like know what to work on, know what the priorities are, know basically what everybody wants in general, in a very clever way that isn't just copied from what other people have done in the past. I think that's one of the reasons I'm so hyped is I love being a part of something that hasn't really been done that way before, like something fresh, a different way of doing things. So exciting, new frontiers. How you doing, Joe? How's your day?
Pretty good. It's been really busy, but this, I don't know, this is always fun because we get to show stuff off and we get to actually talk about the details and answer questions if they're there and all the rest of it. It's awesome.
For sure. Before we slide into it, I found a new XKCD that I liked. It's relevant. You know, what we're doing with waiting for votes and things like that. We got all this on-chain data, and we're able to use it. We're able to do something useful with it, and it really, you know, it is, it's a really beautiful governance system that allows everyone to have some voice, even if you don't hold a lot. And I think that's the one key thing that I keep thinking about is like you don't even have to have the ownership tokens for the layers to be a part of this voting process.
Right.
So,
and
that's my favorite part.
I think it's important because number one, we have tied in some of the more typical strategies, which is token voting with the lot. Is here are NFTs. If you hold one of these, and there will be the ability for anybody to get those at some point too, right? Yep. And so we have that. We also have the liquidity stuff where that's important to the whole ecosystem.
Some people have noticed already that they have buttons that popped up in their settings for add liquidity here.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
And
that'll also, by the way, tie into and I can't guarantee the timing, but hopefully it'll be pretty soon. We have everything we need now to plug in that component, those pools, and the lore rewards system, the farming. And then the third part is behavior, and that's the thing that, as far as I would describe it, no one else has ever happened upon for decentralized governance, for governance at all, generally. And I wrote an article that hopefully will be published at some point in the future, depending upon if the editors yank stuff out, where we're really tying it together and using Den as an example, but tying together even historical democracies and republics and the issues that they have and how this system could potentially solve some of those. So anyway, it's cool stuff.
Yes. And other things we got is not just about that. So we've got to talk about the metaverse layer, which won the LCP. Right. We've got to talk about the runners-up options, which I think we might have another one to add that isn't in here. I heard that airdrops might be getting funded.
Yes.
So we can do some of our experiments with that as far as, like, can we incentivize people to show everyone how to get free money?
Right.
And
And
I feel
and
like
I,
it's a version of a faucet almost.
it's funny because I for the Texas one, I said, oh, that'll be cool. I mean, I don't live there. I do have family there. I've been there. I've lived there before. That it would be an interesting thing, putting out that vision that if the LCP, after the LCP closed and you had the runners up, that you could right there, say, oh, I'm going to commit some matter to getting this created, and it might be a partial, but that
Yeah.
essentially it would prompt others to say, oh, you mean if I've only put in 50 more matter, that thing gets made? Sure, I'll put it in, and then then it's not just one person
Hmm.
doing the whole
That's a
thing.
good point. It doesn't have
So
to come from one person, but right now you got to coordinate somehow, right?
yeah,
Like we don't have, for example, one of the items on our prioritization list is the DM system. So
yeah,
right now we can't even get into a group chat and say, "Hey, we all voted for this thing. Do we want to chip
right,
in
right,
and make that a deal?" So we could
yep,
just have that integrated. That's cool. A little bucket where you can say, "Yeah, I'm down for this many matter."
yeah,
And if you're not sure what we're talking about, we have a monthly contest to decide what new layer should get created, and it's a community contest, and there's two categories that you can win in. And if you don't win, but you are one of the 5 runners up, then you can pay a fee to get it created anyway. And
right.
we run that every month. So
And people do, there are various critiques of it, but I think that over time, people, because usually the critiques are with new users saying, why do you have to do this? And and you don't. You can come in and create your own layer, but we wanted to put um, I don't know what you call them. We wanted to keep people from just squatting on layer names
yeah,
and
right.
not actually having content. So you have to put a cost in front of it. And the layer creation process, the LCP, lets people come in, which incentivizes more people, more owners, more activity. It has worked and has been very organic. And we've been tuning it and testing different types of models with it. It's pretty cool. Um, you have to click on the either if you go this governance right, we could go through these details that this only shows the
These are
config
approved,
governance
yeah.
stuff. But if you go to either the
And
governance main tab and then click on the new icon or the new setting on the far right of the
yes.
then it will give you the actual site-wide governance proposals only.
It's good that I did that wrong at first so we could walk through going to where it actually is.
Right.
So the prioritizations are in here. I wanted to say we also have a proposal up to, 'cause since we're talking about fees already, we have a proposal up to expand the fee options. Right now, I'm going to scroll down to where the formatting is better at the end here. Here it is. I just reposted it down here to have a
We're gonna
better
fix that, by the way.
formatting. Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, your 5 runners up, you have costs associated to making that happen. So the proposal is, and there's some conversation going on. I love how the comments under the actual proposal that you're talking about, you can see your pie charts, you can see what people are signaling in advance, and then you can talk about it and kind of get the rationale behind the proposal, get other
Right.
ideas. And in the end, like, could even say, all right, everybody vote, change your vote to no, and we're going to do another one if you want to, like if it comes down to that.
Right.
Like if we come into some conversation and it's like, oh,
Right.
actually, so there's
Right.
all the ability to do all of that.
Like there was one here, for example, this is yours, right? Your
This is
proposal
mine, yes.
actually says 2,500, and for any 2,500 matter to
Oh,
create
yeah.
any LCP that has more than 8 or at least 8 unique voters.
Hmm.
And someone mentioned that's not enough. That's like, and it's like when we looked at it, we looked down the list of the LCPs, and I can't remember what percentage of current LCP commitments, because they're held on to, have at least 8 people, and it was a reasonable amount, right? And that's why we said 8, because I originally thought we were looking at Fibonacci, right? So we were like, okay, is it 8 or is it 12 or is it sorry, 8 or anyway, 8 or 13 or 21. That's what it is. And I think the 13 was a little too restrictive. It was only a few more than the 5 runners up. And here's my, by the way, my thought in why I wanted, and Dave posted it. But when we've been in discussions, the rationale behind doing this at all is to avoid the horse race. And for anybody that's even talking about the other proposal on adding 2 unique and 1 by lore, so that you could potentially have 3, but you'll at least have 2. But you'll have the highest in lore, and then the highest in unique, and the next highest in unique voters. And the reason we did that is ever since we've gone to 1 on each side. Right now, the past maybe 6 months that we've run this, it's been the highest lore and the highest unique voter. They have always coincided to be the same layer proposal. Why?
Yeah, it really has.
Because once you see that one's going to win, everybody wants to put their I'm going to move all of my lore that I have into it, and it's going to win, and it's going to get the most people also. And it's like a horse race mentality that happens in politics when when the press only focuses on a top candidate out of 7 in a primary race, that it's a horse race. It's like, and it's funny because hopefully this doesn't offend anyone. I mean, related to the way that the news orgs handle it, that people don't concentrate on the issues anymore. And I think it's, on purpose, but it's, instead of concentrating on the issues, it's, oh, this one's going to win. It's like, well, okay, you're saying it's going to win, but I want to know, what does this candidate believe in? And, in this case, it's a way to, for one thing, and I've noticed it even as an absolute, that I always get kind of anxious if I've forgotten to put any lore into one of the top 5 runners up, because I'm like, oh, I hope nobody creates it because I didn't put enough lore in, because it popped up too fast or something. And it's like, and I actually want to have a piece of that. And so I don't
know if I have a piece of Texas or not. I have to go check that one.
Yeah. And what it does is it makes anybody who's participating in this really go through them and say, well, wait a minute, this is a pretty good one. I don't care if it's ranked number 28, right? I don't care if it's ranked number 75. It's like, I'm going to put some amount of my lore in, because somebody might come in and say, hey, there's only 1,000 lore committed to this, and I have 250 of it. It makes sense for me to put the matter in, and I'll have the big piece of it. And nobody else was paying attention because it was so low.
The thing I like about that, one of the things I guess I like about that, the other is that it gives you something to do with matter. Besides, like, that's always my thing whenever people are talking to me about tokens, utility, and things like that. Find the one that you can do stuff with, something other than selling it. Yeah. And so that gives utility to matter. But also, I feel like the type of person that's going to get a few people together to say, hey, don't you, like, let's say the preppers proposal, right? For example, I know a guy who I've mentioned to him a couple of times already, but he would be an outstanding person to bring in an existing community, right? He's already got contacts and people that they talk to about prepper stuff. Whatever that is, survival, I guess, things like that. And they got their own forums and they got their own communities. But if he understood the power of what Den could do for a community, they decided to take the lead on that and say, you know what? They don't have to understand what Den's about. I understand it enough. I'm going to make this. This is an opportunity, and I'll bring them in, and we will purchase this 2,500 matter layer proposal to make it exist. Right.
Yep.
Now, there's other people in there. Maybe they don't care about that. The person that's going to do that sees it as an opportunity that they will then put, hopefully, theoretically, effort into maintaining and realizing an ROI on that, if you want to put it in those terms, whatever the term is, but a return in value on that, and because it's valuable for that community, and somebody will get that.
And as an example there, that's ranked number 15. I'm interested in that because it is a super interesting topic to me. Just it's so different, and there's useful information. It kind of ties over with people who do camping too and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's ranked at number 15, 298,000 lore. And you think about it, it might build its way up over 6 months. If something happens, but if there's a freaking war that happens in Europe, it might jump up, right? People might all of a sudden be more interested in prepping. But the crazy thing about it is it could also get up into the, top ranked around 8 or 9, and never really, because you have, maybe more sexy things that pop up above it. And this would just
Right,
open it up
intentions
to
change quickly, don't they?
yeah, yeah.
Attention spans are what people are
So,
focused on,
because we've seen a
which is
lot of
fine.
layers that go 8 months before they get approved, and I don't know. That's just super interesting to follow, and I try to like say commit lore in advance for things that I can. Okay, I understand that. It makes sense to me. I would support that. It would bring, in my opinion, what I always focus on is what will bring good content and or good content creators in. Is it visual? Is it not? Is it fun? Is it not? Is it something that could get attention or could interact with events in the real world that might get us, national attention or mention in articles and things like that. And those are the things I put lore on. And I like to watch how people move stuff around. And then I interact at the very end with, okay, what's in the above? Do I have enough of that? And that type of thing. But it's really interesting. So
On a side note, unrelated, I used to do a lot of music scene stuff and music festivals. Like, it's a fun thing, and I was just thinking, what would a Den Fest look like? Hypothetically in the future.
yeah.
And I'm looking at this and I see, who I want to see who I want to hang out with personally is I want to get conspiracy theories, preppers, and craft beer layers together.
It's a
And
good
that
overlap.
sounds like an
And
excellent
by the
evening.
way, that was the original notion of doing this whole process because when we were in alpha stage and we had just a few hundred people that had accounts, and we opened it up one time. We put a button on there, create a new layer, and guess what happened? We ended up with like 5,000 or 6,000 new layers, right? And they were
Right.
all just like all squatting, and it was hard to find anything because we didn't have the interface to search for layers and stuff like that yet. And said, okay, we went back and said that this is kind of intended that the proposals should try to find something where we already have existing community that would be interested. Okay, and that works because the people with lore you have to make it happen. And then the other side is where we can then take that overlap and expand it. I know that some of these people are also interested in this, and I think it'd be a good expansion, right? And then we can bring
Cross
new people
posting
in.
stuff like that
Yeah,
has that in mind as well. Yeah.
yeah. So it's
At
cool.
what point does something in conspiracy theories have to migrate into true crime, though? Is there a threshold?
Yeah, especially since 2020. I mean, geez.
Uh, so yeah, that's where LCP is. So the proposal is, and then just what you're talking about is the argument against that is if we get too many layers going, or the options for too many layers going, then you could create that sort of empty layer situation.
Yep.
What I see there is I don't see the. I mean, yeah, maybe, sure. If somebody
Well,
wants to throw a bunch of matter away on
the
something,
the great
but
thing
the
is that
incentive to do that is not
the
really there.
the lore and lot economy considered that there's a way to exit, and we put a hurdle above it. There are fees, but if you realize and think that this is going nowhere, and we've actually had people do this, right? They say, they bought into one of the layers and then they totally lose. They lose. Not want to say lose interest. Maybe they feel disenfranchised. That's happened once, right? And they actually exited the lot, and it was great because we got a test on it. That you can pull your lore back out, right? Now you lose some of it in so doing, but that's intended, and that's it's like there's a hurdle there, but at some point.
Hmm.
Because my bet is that a lot of these layers that are getting millions and millions of lot probably don't need that level, right? And so there
Probably
might be
not.
some people who exit, which will reorient the supply.
That's an
So
interesting point too, Joe, that I hadn't thought of. Is that we have been talking about like, wow, I would have expected that the millions of lore per layer pa- tendency would be gone by now. I would expect that we were in the thousands or at least 100,000s by now.
right,
So if people are going to do that anyway, why not give a direct like, hey, if you're going to do that anyway, don't gobble up the contest, just go buy it. So that's to me kind of another
mm-hmm.
argument that I just thought of for allowing a direct matter purchase or fee
yeah,
for making a layer.
yeah,
I think that whatever we do, just as long as it adds, at least makes it more interesting without damaging anything. that
Right.
I don't have a problem with,
Right.
with whatever the community wants to do.
Yep.
But I think it's
Yep.
generally, I think it'll be generally a good measure. I don't think it'll be abused to domain squat. But if it does, because we can go down that, not rabbit hole, but we can go down that fork a little bit. What does that mean? Because if someone's going to use that as a way to spin up a bunch of layers that don't get used, even if that is true, that means that that person has to acquire matter somehow to do that. So
And
they've
lore.
either got to be a very good content creator, they've got to be a very good evaluator or something, or they've got to go out to Uniswap or something, or some other way to obtain it.
Yeah.
Get tipped out by being
Yes.
great person. So like I don't know how else you would acquire that much matter to be able to make too many,
Right.
that
Right.
kind of thing.
And the lore is there too. They have to have one lore for every lot that they want
Yeah, that's
to
true.
use to make whatever it is. Right. So
Amazing scarcity.
yeah.
Scarcity applications that weren't even thought about whenever scarcity decisions were made.
Right.
So it's good to see that validated.
Yes.
All right, so I've got the big one up here, which is all the different things that we want,
Ah.
and the proposal is asking people to vote on which one they want. Now, I thought it was definitely worth reviewing them, but it's definitely worth suggesting how somebody thinks about it, because
Right.
it's not necessarily it's especially not what is everybody else is voting for. It's not this is not a graphic signaling what's popular and where you should go. This
Right.
is allowing you to let us know, let Den know that hey, here's what I want dev time spent on the next feature set coming.
Right. Right.
And then once everyone is weighed in, then we'll get the next thing we work on, and we
Yeah.
can reshuffle it and vote again after that's done.
Yeah, and we don't know if we're
Or
going to
however
do
we
it.
do it.
The assumption right now is that as soon as that feature is released, so let's say
Mhm.
formal cross posting. Let's say that wins. I don't know. As soon as it is released, then we come back and we run this again. And the thing we don't know is how to limit it to 13. Like say I had to when I assembled them all, I took based upon everybody's comments and what I know about the system. I had to take some out, right? And I did take some and merge them, things that were similar that were originally on in two slots, and I merged them. But I had to, and they're in the list there of what I still want to make sure is noted, and it does point
Like this
there's a
one here, I think,
URL
is an
for
example
the
of one of
discussion.
those, the matter lot
Yes.
trade and matter purchase one.
Right, right, and that would be that you could purchase matter potentially with a credit card, and you could also sell your lot for matter or buy a lot with your matter, which that's what I'm excited about because I want to buy. There are a lot of layers that I'm like, I did not get enough of that layer, so some of them I
Yep.
didn't get any. So I was like,
It's something that I would use for sure.
yes, it'd be
I
awesome.
wanted to, before we get too far away from what we were already talking about, I wanted to say that one suggestion was putting a cap on lore to LCPs. So if we wanted to, we could cap how much you put into one.
Would you cap the? Here's a question: would you cap the total amount that they could only be 1 million? Because then, what if I come in and grab 987,000?
I think it would be per denizen. Is
per
probably
denizen
what
1
I
million.
think
That
it
could
would be.
still then go to crazy because it's. I mean, there are some.
Or any number.
Yeah.
Like if it, without
Yeah.
without picking apart that particular number, the
Yeah,
concept
it could be
itself is,
250K or something like
if
that.
we wanted to, yeah, we would have to think that out. We'd have to discuss that out.
I mean, the great thing about it is we're not controlling the supply, and that one layer will have 5 million lot, and one will have a 5,000 lot, and that's intentional. And it's just if you see it's like, oh wow, somebody put in 250K. Now, there's some cases where, in particular, the I even said that on either airdrops or the one that won Metaverse.
A metaverse,
that
yeah.
I bought more than I want to hold, right? I bought, and why? Because I figured, well, what I want to do is experiment with ways to expand the community there. So, I'm looking for, and I haven't had time to put together a plan, but I'm looking for ideas for, how should we reward? Should we go to Rainmaker, a Dragon Chain partner, and have them give away some of these NFTs?
I love that idea.
Based upon the people that are in the community that are pushing, hey, there's a metaverse layer.
Especially since we have so many of these early layers isn't there one with Elon had like 60 million or something, or what?
How many was it?
6
I can
million?
look. Let me look.
Anyway, there's just an ungodly amount of NFTs to do stuff with. So
Yeah,
using them to reward existing communities for coming over and building here would be a fantastic idea.
Exactly. And it's Elon Musk, 9.5 million.
Okay. All right.
So it's a lot, though. That's a lot,
Yeah,
right?
that was a fishing story. I just kept making it bigger every time I mentioned it.
Yeah, that's a big number. I mean, of NFTs, that's really super interesting. So I can't tell. Anytime I mention that, we've made, I think now it's over 140 million NFTs that we've made. Maybe 145, 146.
Right. I sometimes I'll mention that. I'll get into a conversation with somebody and I'll mention that, oh, actually we've got, a bunch of million NFTs that we've minted. And they're like, oh yeah, where did you mint it on Solana or something, man? That must have been expensive. I'm like, no, it's their Ethereum. It's like, what are you talking about? How do you do that? It's like, Dragon Chain, bro. We can do stuff on Den like that. So cool. We want to run through these.
Sure. We should go. I guess if you want to go through let's go through. In fact, we should go through all through governance issues. I think.
Okay.
Give the big picture. So, we start with this one, or
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of look at the other two, but we go back to them. That's fine.
Okay. So, show dollar metric, that would literally be up in the upper right of Den, where you see matter right there, that you would click on something and it would show you the dollar value instead of the matter value. And it probably would have lore too, maybe, whatever. That was the very first in 2021 governance issue that was posted. It was approved.
Jason did that.
It's just been sitting in the list on things that we know the design, we just haven't done it.
One of the reasons this is here is it was there. It just the priority of things was, and it was becoming an issue of, should we prioritize this because we've waited so long, because it's been approved for so long and it's our longest outstanding one,
Right.
And sort of the beauty of a DAO, I guess, is these types of decisions, because they impact the community and because you're trying to do what's right for the community anyway. It allows the community to just do that part of the job, which is to decide what's priority and things like that, and it's super cool. Yeah.
Yep. Next is anonymous posting.
Yes.
We actually made a couple of design. How are we gonna say? We went after this from a couple of different angles. It is, in my opinion, as an architect, entirely possible to still reward the anonymous poster, but there's so many issues where they would have to trust us that we aren't keeping info and stuff like that. And if there's only one person making an anonymous post in a given period of time, then you'd be able to look at the data and know, oh, that was them. And so we decided, hey, what if we just said, look, you make an anonymous post, and the layer gets all the rewards. We haven't decided things like, to make an anonymous post, does it cost more in energy? Does it cost in matter? So that if it's a nasty, because you have to think about some of the negatives. If it's an anonymous post, there could be some, so you could sacrifice matter to do it. The other could be, you have to have a lot. You have to be one of the owners, which is also restrictive. So I know one of these people said this controversial thing. We have to decide that stuff, but
and
I love this one because there's so many things I want to say that I can't.
Hey, now that you've said that, everyone's going to assume that every anonymous post is just you.
Yeah, you just pretend like that. We just brand it like what was the MySpace guy?
Tom, right?
I'll be everybody's friend in every anonymous post.
One thing I think is interesting about this is we talk so much about giving more utility to matter. This gives more value to and more incentive to lot holders.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to so you still do all of the calculations just like we do with the anonymous post, but then since they're anonymous, like you said, send that to the layer instead You could either,
Idea
now I'm
just popped
thinking,
up. What if, because we already are going to say the layer in their governance of the layer
yeah.
will be able to decide this layer allows anonymous posts
Mm-hmm.
or this layer doesn't. Or, so you could either say this layer is identified only, or a mix, or anonymous only. You could make a layer that says we only let you post anonymously. And why not put a config item in there? Say it costs 5 matter, which goes to the lot holders.
I've got one better.
That would be good.
I just had an idea. Check this out. What if you know how there's like we have sliders and stuff already for like energy.
Mm-hmm.
What if the layer owners what if there is a configuration to allow either or a mixture of both, like ratio, anonymous post rewards going to the layer owners, and or anonymous posters rewards getting distributed to everyone who's posted that day in that layer to just
Yeah.
add on top of whatever they get
Yeah.
as an incentive to post in my layer. Like, let's say you have board and random and they're
Yeah.
competing for users, or you have NFTs and art NFTs and they're competing for users. Well, then
Yeah.
almost like mining pools that exist today, we were talking about mining
If
all
you
day,
come
so I'm
over
still
here, you
thinking
get a
about
cut of
that.
that. Yeah, that's great.
Different
Yeah.
mining pools have different fees and different things like
Yeah.
that to incentivize
Mhm.
people to
And
join mine.
yeah, at some point, that's probably a different subject, but you could also do that with what is already going to the layers. You could say our layer takes less of the fee if you're a content creator, but that's bad for the lot holder. It's good for the content creator, and you could adjust it over time. I don't know. Anyway,
Oh yeah,
okay, next.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
discuss it. We'll have a whole
there's a
discussion
lot. Yeah.
about anonymous whenever we get there,
Yes.
because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah. Next is matter lot trade and matter purchase. We already kind of described that. The matter lot trade has some very interesting angles to it on how the pricing works and things like that. But it's essentially like trading skins or trading items in a game, right? That's the easiest way to understand it and describe it. That if I have lot that does this, that is maybe more valuable than that other lot, I'm going to not be able to arbitrarily, it's not an exchange. It's not like I'm going to set a price and do stuff like that. It's an NFT. So it's more like, here's how productive this NFT is. And I'm going to set it based upon time. So the more expensive it is, or the longer it will take you to recover what you're going to spend in matter to get that, the more it is geared towards bringing the right people in. That look, it might take right now 9 months to recover this price point on that NFT, but I am making a bet that I'm going to come in with that NFT, and I'm going to start producing content either by hire or of my own that's going to make it. I'm going to make my money back in a month, right? And that's the type of people you want. So the incentive is to try to pull in the people that you want as owners, as community members.
And that would allow, now that I think about it, we were talking about that scenario where maybe the preppers community might come over. That would allow you to come in, and if you wanted to buy out the community, that would
Yes.
maybe that's value. Maybe being bought out with the preppers layer is more valuable to somebody, and they can go make their own layer and or just join that one and say, oh, you want to run it? Awesome. I just want a great preppers layer. Fantastic. Also here, yes, I'll take money.
Because that's already there. That driver's there. Is like all of us that have some of these layers that are relatively active know that we want to bring more activity in, and yet we don't have an easy mechanism to distribute it to the right people. And this would kind of take care of some of that. There are a couple of other angles too, because the bigger goal of some of these, at least at system level, is to get more people as owners so that they're driven to find other content contributors and other things, right? Anyway,
All right.
formal
So,
cross posting
yep.
is
Well, last thing I wanted to say on that real quick is the ROI system, like that model of letting the system determine what the value of your NFT is based on objective metrics or whatever. When the current NFTs ecosystem, I can't talk today, sees that working, I think that is such, like, just bringing the NFT market back to sanity a little bit, I think can be very helpful across the board to get
Yep.
real meaningful numbers out there.
Yep.
For other people to use the same system would be fantastic.
right.
All right. So cross-posting. Sorry, I just wanted
Cross-posting is
that.
basically a way to reward someone for signaling that this content may perform well in another community. With because if somebody from that community isn't even watching it, and yet not disincentivize, not penalize the content creator, they actually get a share of any positive outcome. Let's see here. The denizen at reference by ID is to help with some of the notifications and to help with conversation building and things like that. More like something you get on Twitter.
Yeah. Hey, get in here. Check this out. Yeah.
Yep. The chat is layer chat, along with real-time updates of new posts, new comments, and existing threads in that layer. DMs, so that you can talk directly, and in group chats with some interesting blockchain-specific historical components that you can store it on chain, or you can let it go and it'll just be wiped. So on. Sticky posts. Some members, especially in certain layers, have been asking for this for a long time, and we really do need this. We also need it at site-wide level. There's a little bit of design work to be done around how do you, with layer governance, decide when a post should be made sticky. It'd be one thing if it's like, say, a longer running thing, like, say, here are our community guidelines, which I'd rather have actually in the profile itself, or the layer description, right? It's more, if you have an emergency situation and we want everybody to know this, I want to be able to sticky it, and without direct that, do we make it so that people would nominate admins that could do stickies, or do we make it so that anybody could sticky something and put matter or lore, I don't know, up at risk, and if the community says that should not be sticky, they lose the lore or matter, and it goes to the does it go to the community? I don't know.
I was thinking about this a little bit too, and we want to allow people to put up stickies, like in case we have a layer called DinCats, right? The cyber security awareness, and
exactly
so there's some sort of thing, a 0 day that hits the wild, or whatever, and that layer wants to put up there immediately a sticky saying, hey, here's here's newsflash, that kind of thing. How do we allow that with the governance? And I thought maybe there could be two types. There could be one that is maybe it lasts for a longer period of time, and that's enforced, so you don't get a bunch of people, like you almost have a season of opening a new sticky, updating the regular sticky, but then there's a flash sticky that actually goes above it, pushes the regular one down, that somebody could and maybe it decays at a shorter time, and it has to be fed with matter by anybody for it to stay alive.
You could, and you could also, you could make it so they have to risk matter or lore, and that maybe they are rewarded in mining even for providing stuff that does get the consensus. Yes, everybody agreed that was a great sticky. You put it up, you put your lore or matter at risk, and now you get the lore or matter back, but you also get this mining. I don't know. You could do all types of stuff, but you're right. If you had a flash one, and maybe you just have to keep feeding it. Yeah, we need to keep that running. Let's put lore into it.
Just some ideas, and again, that can be hashed out in detail.
Because we do want more utility for both lore and matter, and where it is more appropriate for layer ownership rights.
That might be more appropriate, actually. Lore, because it's an owner function. It's like, okay, we're keeping this sticky alive. Right. Anybody could do it, but you would use the lore token since it relates to that function.
Yep.
So be a good idea.
And the great thing too is if you fed one of them, that's how they'd be ranked. It'd be we need to rank this one higher than the one we already have there. You just put more lore in it.
Interesting. I like the gamification there too.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, happy button. We haven't talked a lot about this.
You're the one that's got to explain this one. I know what it is, but it's way more interesting than it might look on its face.
Right. So, we had some grad students. West Coast that came to us wanting to work on some stuff with us, and they put this together, and I feel really bad because we've never had the time. Now it's here, right? So potentially we could get it in place. That essentially this is a couple of components. It's them putting together already implemented natural language semantics. We have to integrate it where two effects. One would be when you're about to make a post or a reply, there would be a tool there that might have an indicator. Oh, this is happy, this is neutral, and this is negative, right? And you would then know, it's like, yes, I intended this to be negative in reply to somebody that I'm, trying to say something bad about. So I get it. But at the same time, if you didn't mean to be negative, or if you're translating from another language, it would be helpful. It would be, it would say, oh, this might be a little negative. Maybe you should tune it. And then, you can tune it. And the reason you might want to tune it is because on the other side, we would have a happy button, which would essentially allow anyone in the content consumption role who's reading stuff to click the happy button, and it would only show you content that was rated as above, a neutral or above. Maybe we'll have to play with it to see, but it'd be kind of interesting because then I generally want this to be seen, so I don't want it to be negative. I want it to be positive. So essentially, it would help people's mental health in some cases, and especially in some days. It's like, I don't need to see any troll stuff. I don't need to see anything negative today. I'm going to click the happy button. I'm going to be happy today.
I can appreciate that myself. I would use it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
just trying to take a load off, and like.
On top of the fact, you think about the reporting. We'd be able to show the metrics of how much content is good versus bad, and compare ourselves to Twitter and
and that's
Reddit.
More stuff for something else that's on here too, which is the leaderboards and things like that.
Yes,
more
yes.
A lot of this
I'll
data.
try to go faster.
Go faster, sure, but it's fine. I don't care.
Showing consensus data after 8 or 12 hours, and there are a lot of intense reasons in the algorithm to make it 8 or 12 hours. There's an important reasoning there, which we go into later, and then also show the proof after it hits Bitcoin and Ethereum. We had that way back in one of the alpha stages, and we dropped it because it wasn't formatted in a pretty way, so we cut it out, and we should add that back in. Layer metrics and leaderboard is essentially so you can see right now you have no clear way to tell which layers are producing the most. And some of the stuff that we're going to need for that matter, a lot stuff would be tied to this as well. But essentially, you'd be able to go look at the leaderboard and say, oh, memes or outdoors is top today or this week or this month. You might see a chart.
A little bit about that to T Swift or Die on the coffee show yesterday about how he decides what layer to post in depending on where he thinks he'll get the most energy. Right. And it might not necessarily be the exact best match for the content, but it's in a layer that does relate and it does fit in there. And you can go and see what he's doing already is he's manually in his mind seeing the metrics. Yep. So he's going in to see like, okay, what is the top post in this layer and how much energy did it take to get them there? Versus...
And you think about that. That is what will drive the owners to bring the right content, because they're going to see, oh, we're not performing as well as something that has a slight overlap in our community. We need to either start voting more on the content that's in there, getting a little more engaged, or we need to start bringing other content in. And that's the other reason that cross-posting will be very valuable, because you think about someone like that and content creators, they can then say, hey, I have something where I normally post in this layer over here, but it has to do with something with Bitcoin. So I'm going to actually focus it over here and then maybe cross-post over to the other layer that I normally post to. And you get the full benefit. Anyway, let's see here. Dark mode. That was dark mode. That's going to be a fan favorite, I think. No one's voted on it yet. I think.
I used to want it real bad, but then I just went and got plugins that did it for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But what's weird is the colors obviously colors, some of them don't match up to exactly what they should be. So we would have our own custom version of that.
Yeah. Smart contract integration API.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. So smart contract integration, the idea, and I've talked about this in the past, that we want to be able to have an API, so developer or layer participant or member can come in and code up a smart contract that does things in its layer. It could be for interesting things about your community. It could be for things that we need as Den. Like say for the one layer that is marked right now as we can't create it yet because we want this in place first. So some people might want to vote on that for that reason alone. That if something is flagged as inappropriate or something else, that we would be able to have a smart contract that can be configured to not show it to everyone until it has
handle
consensus.
That in a certain way.
Yeah.
And maybe it needs to maybe this needs to go into a review queue or something like that.
And this could also be the tie-in if you're wanting to do your own token economics and things inside of a community that would ride atop lore, lot, and matter. That you could have another token that is rewarded also in your community that you could build you could use this system to do that.
So this is what we would need to have this, it sounds like. Maybe this and factor and maybe maybe more features, but at least this and factor before there's one proposal that can't be created even if it wins right now until we have the right tooling and stuff like that.
Right.
But stuff like this is what you're referring to, is these sorts of tools so that we can create things to handle certain situations.
Yep. And then factor integration, which is more, it's a decentralized identity system. And I want to see it because I want flags in there so that you can prove that I can at a glance see that this really is Dave's post and not someone pretending to be Dave. And at a glance, I can see this person's reputation in this layer. And I can say, it's an interesting thing that will help with the evaluation of the content and directly help with the economics of everything tied in. So anyway, that's all. All right.
If we do that, I think we should be able to mint that flag as an NFT, and you can show it off on Twitter to advertise your Den.FT.
Yes, we should. We should. Okay, so then the other two proposals.
Yeah, let's go to those. All right, so we have the one we talked about with the 2,500 matter being able to purchase a layer is one of them.
Yep. And it stands that some people voted against it. Some people voted for it. One thing that isn't in here that we will probably have to have a governance vote on is what happens with that 2,500 I mean, theoretically, it could be burned.
Right, I see.
Which some people might support. Maybe they would, if they say, if you did this and burned it, I would support it. Or
I know there's definitely people that support burning it. I would support, and I know there's other support also. I think Jared wanted this before we had the option to do it on Uniswap v3, which is put it into one-sided liquidity into Uniswap.
Yes, that's the other side.
Option.
Yep. We could throw it in there and
or you could send it all to my account if you want.
Yes.
If everyone votes on
that,
that's fine.
Yes, it could go to a charity account. It could go to marketing. If we wanted to say, okay, we're gonna not burn it, but we're gonna convert. The problem is converting it.
I can see that being popular is putting it to marketing, because there's been some discussion about that too. That's interesting.
Yeah, that could be super amazing.
So evaluate that, see how you feel about it, and just a reminder: everyone's account can vote now, just not just people who have lot in a layer.
Right. And then it's the first one was to change the LCP, the layer creation process, to allow the top lore, the top proposal by lore to be created, and the top two proposals by unique voter count, because then you would at least get 2 layers every month that this would be in effect. And this can change. You could put this in place, and we could have another proposal next month to say, we didn't quite like that. It didn't work like we thought. It's fine. Because in the past we've done 5 and 5, I think, before.
Yeah, we did.
We had an overlap.
We had 10 at a time for a couple of months. In fact, because we didn't have some of the systems in yet, like this, we wanted to slow it down, but the governance decision didn't make it in time. So technically, we didn't get it passed in time, and so we had 10 again instead of just 5.
Right.
So this pivoting and this makes us more agile as a community to make decisions together.
Right.
And does this time out in a week just like the layer ones too?
Yep.
Okay.
If it doesn't, and it might, if enough people vote on them, they could.
Sorry about
turn
the dog
forward.
barking.
That's all right. All right. So I mean, we could definitely see them being decided, especially the ones that are approve and deny. Way before the week, but it depends on who votes. And I'm trying to hold off votes so I can see effect without, I have a lot of weight. I want to make sure I, kind of see how people are voting and see, especially for conversations. If people say, hey, you guys didn't think about this. This is, if you did this, I would support it. Things like that.
Yeah, getting a little bit of feedback. That's a great idea. Is getting not necessarily seeing what other people think, but yes, seeing what other people think.
Yeah, and we did most of these. We've had discussions. Like you could go look at the Den governance 2021 layer and find discussion posts about everything that's in these three at least. And I guess the priorities one is in the new Den.DAO layer, where we had a ample discussion. So we thought, okay, we could use somebody. And by the way, we didn't talk about the process because we did have to adjust some things to make it more scalable and simpler, so we could get it out and make sure it was clean. And that is that the Den.DAO lot is the access point to creating both configuration, governance, so to change the banner and stuff like that in the Den.DAO layer, and the miscellaneous votes, which is effectively the site-wide. So anybody with and I don't know how we have reputation set, and if that'll be community, it'd be the lot adjusting that. But if we get spam or something in there, but I think it's open right now, and theoretically anybody could create a discussion post and say, hey, we should consider to do this. And they might not have Den.DAO lot, but that would then be, it's almost like a nomination process. Good discussion. It's like, that's a great idea.
See, yeah.
Anyone with Den.DAO lot can then actually
pick that up and make a proposal out of it.
Yeah.
Make
And that's intended also because in the white paper, although it wasn't called Den.DAO at the time, in that white paper, that there's already a plan to say, and I can't remember the percentage, but there's a percentage of Den.DAO, and it's already set aside. In fact, the Den account holds it. We've kind of said the Den account holds lot in the Den.DAO layer. It will not vote on anything. It holds a portion for the future team. So if we bring people in, leadership, anything else, that we can have some Den.DAO lot for them. And it also holds a portion for this program where I assume over a few years, but this will be up to the DAO to vote on, that people participating in the system earning matter will earn that Den.DAO lot. So they'll actually have a piece of the DAO. So anybody can get it. So
that's super cool. That tying in with this together, that gives, before when we moved lore signaling onto DragonNet.
Yeah.
That was when I started thinking like, wow, okay, now we have the pieces together where somebody with a new account without ever spending a dime can go from brand new denizen who just downloaded the app, learning how to use it, how the system works, maybe not, just kind of maybe just talking about food, who knows?
Yeah.
And over time earns ownership of a layer, ownership of Den.DAO itself, and it just empowers anybody with a phone and a computer and an access point to the internet. If you can get that, it's a tool set for anybody who wants to figure out how to use it. And you might figure out how to use it in a way we didn't think of, that I didn't think of.
Because there is that which is worth mentioning, because some people say it's too complicated. And it's like, it's only complicated because you're listening to how we're describing how it works, right?
Yeah. This is more of like a creators meeting. Here's how you can really fine tune your creative process to
the intent is you can come in and like I'm a good writer. I'm going to write some stuff about this thing that I love, and it's well received. It's like, oh my gosh, I made $100 on that post. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this. And at some point, if it's consistent and you really want to do this, then it would probably be very smart for you to look at the algorithm and figure out how to optimize that. And that's how you get started, and then that's how you get started. Then you're in, and
everything from there is like one little piece at a time. It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll try this out or whatever, or maybe you just come in here every now and then to read the cryptocurrency news to find out that Intel has a claim on a new mining chip that's super duper fast and all that, And if you evaluate that objectively, you're going to earn a little bit of sweat equity for working.
Right, and that's amazing, because then you not only earn tokens, you also earn a piece of the governance. I mean, it's kind of, that's what a DAO's supposed to be about. It's kind of, I don't know, I love it. It's gonna be neat.
Yeah, and I see a unique opportunity to start basically for existing DAOs that use all of the complicated, not user-friendly stuff to govern, to be able to access this I guess governance system, not governance, behavioral systems on Den, to then reach out to people that maybe they never would have had access to before, because it's out of people's attention span to learn how to use MetaMask. It's out of people's interest to, even know why they need a thing called an NFT. and all of
Right.
that stuff, or
Right.
what a DAO even is.
Yeah.
All you need really is people that align with your cause, and you can run a layer with your DAO, and it's complementary. So it's like adding value to existing systems, which is dope.
Right. It's gonna be amazing. So,
All
cool.
right.
Do we have anything
So,
else we have to cover?
Let me see. Let me double check. I don't think so. I think the only
Feedback.
comment was mine with Hank Hill down here. My mom sent me that. Cypress Hill reference with Hank Hill.
Insane.
my mom.
I have not seen that, but that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
So yeah, the only other thing is just a reminders. We've got Joe, we've got 3 shows on Den, but I was just thinking today we've got hosts on World Blockchain that have their own shows too. It would be cool to
Yes.
have like a directory of who's a denizen that has a show somewhere, even if it's not on Den.
Right.
The Den directory.
There are a couple
or
of
something.
cryptocurrency people that at first it's like I didn't realize. Oh, they're the original creator of this YouTube video they're posting,
Right.
and
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of the crypto stuff.
Yeah,
There's
it
some good
wasn't
stuff.
it wasn't non-original. It was like, no, that's them. So
Yeah.
that would be cool. So let's see. I'm going to check the comments real quick while I read the reminders. World Blockchain Roundtable is on Thursdays, which was earlier today in the WBRT layer. Super Happy is on Tuesdays. That's in the Dragon Chain layer. Coffee with Den, which is my casual waking up, boot up in the morning show with a couple of other denizens, Gravity Crab and T Swift or Die. That is on Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then this show is right now, every week. So I keep calling it a show. I have to differentiate. It's just more like a brainstorming and
Yep.
news about what's being worked on meeting.
Yes.
All right, let's see what we say. It still seems like we have so few layers. That is true.
I think so.
But that is that's the idea. Once we
Yeah.
scale up, and eventually, over time, we'll have a system that that automates the LCP process that includes automatically scaling it up or down, depending on the adoption rate and usage of the system. Is the idea
Right.
there?
Right.
Cross posting is going to be helpful. Yep, I think cross postings. I envision it from publishing, having the post on wherever I'm posting to, but saying also post to another layer that's maybe a drop down menu or something.
Right. Right.
Layers with less lore being able to draw in more viewers who didn't notice the layer prior.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something else about allowing any layer to be to pay a high fee, a relatively high fee, to make that not the default option for people. It's got to be high enough. But it puts eyeballs on the rest of them. That's a
Right.
really good point.
Right.
It makes people think about something outside of the top 5 or 6. So, yep. So that's it. That is what we've got this week, and then next week we'll have 1 week of testing on the DinDAO stuff. We'll be
Right.
able to see how that's going.
Right.
Update on
And we can talk
stuff.
about maybe the stuff with smart ballots on that or something next week too. or
Yeah,
whatever
that'd be
else
great.
comes up.
Yep.
So,
All right. Well,
Cool.
thanks everybody for hanging out, and thanks for the input on chat. Thanks Hyperfreak, which is probably going to always be what I call you now. And JP12X, thanks John for tuning in over there as well. See you later, and have a good weekend. I don't think this is our last show of the week, so have a good weekend.
thanks, Dave.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible. But that conclusion is laughable, so with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now?